Hello and welcome to Big Rican, Cleveland Browns pregame week 13. As this week the Cleveland Browns take on the Tennessee Titans in Tennessee. And listen, 8-3 is a great thing. 9-3 is even better. So real quick, we're going to review last week's win against the Jacksonville Jaguars, which, by the way too close for comfort. The Browns had this game sewn up. They missed so many opportunities to get this win and make it a bigger one. But here's the bottom line. There's no style points in the NFL. The only people who care about style points are the people who hate the Browns on ESPN. No style points. The 27-25 win is just that, 27-25. Baker was efficient. He did not turn the ball over. They really did well at the line of scrimmage on the offensive side of the ball. Defensive side of the ball is a different animal. The group that went out and beat up Carson Wentz the week before really didn't hit Mike Glennon that much and let him kind of be his own guy and make a bunch of plays. Glennon's not a terrible quarterback, but he is not somebody you should make look like the second coming of Brett Favre or somebody else the way the Browns did last week. The defense continues to be an issue. I actually tweeted out during the game last week, why can't the Browns stop a nosebleed on third down? Listen, they had some injury issues. They had some COVID issues. No Taki, no Myles Garrett, no Denzel Ward. So you expected the defense to take a step back, but after the week before, you kind of thought that they could continue improving and continue being able to rush the passer and stop the run a little bit. They did neither, but still got the W. Mostly because of the play of Baker Mayfield, the offensive line, and of course, Jarvis Landry had a massive game. His first real huge game as a member of the Browns over the last couple of years. Nick Chubb, again, over 100 yards. Kareem Hunt, I think it's 65 yards, but he got dinged up a little bit, it looked like, during that game. So listen, as I said at the beginning, a W is a W. Gets the Browns to 8-3 and brings them to the most important game of the season thus far. I know I said that before the Steelers game, but that was more because of rivalry and because of history. This is because I really believe if the Browns win this game, they could parlay that in the confidence they will get from walking into Tennessee and winning into possibly running the table and ending up at 13-3. Now, those of you who will watch this, as you know, we're not live today, decided not to do it live. But a lot of you who are going to watch or listen to this are going to go, are you out of your mind? And I'm not. So I'm going to start with this game, and then I'm going to break down how the Browns can get to 13-3. So let's start with this. No Kadero Hodge, no Denzel Ward. Sione Taki is back, having been activated from the COVID reserve list, as has Myles Garrett and his 9.5 sacks. I've preached it every week of this season for both the Browns and for Ohio State, which, by the way, we're going to get into pretty big. Next week's fanatical preview on Friday night, I'm going to go deep into what they did yesterday against Michigan State. But bringing back Myles Garrett gives you the defensive player you need to dominate the line of scrimmage. Now, the Titans are a very good offensive team, but they are run first with a quarterback who is asked to not make mistakes and to manage a game. Who's that sound like? Sounds like Baker and the Browns. These are two teams that are very, very evenly matched. They are two teams that are very similarly styled. You have Derrick Henry with over 1,200 yards already on the ground. You have the combination of Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, the most dynamic 1-2 punch and the best 1-2 punch in the NFL in the backfield. So where are the edges? Who's got what? Who's better on this side? Here's what it comes down to. I really believe in this game that the running attacks will cancel each other out. It's going to come down to the defenses, and it's going to come down to the quarterbacks. Whichever defense can stop the other team's running game, and whichever quarterback can make the least mistakes, that team is going to win. Let's start up front with the Browns defense and the return of Myles Garrett. To go on the opposite end of a rejuvenated Olivier Vernon over the last few weeks, and the guys in the middle, Sheldon Richardson and Larry Ogunjobi on the starting offensive line. These guys have played great the last few weeks, but they have not played a back like this. This dude is gigantic. He's fast. He runs people over. Now, granted, the stiff arm that Derrick Henry is getting praised for earlier this year is nothing like the choke slam that Nick Chubb gave a guy that was twice the size of that guy. But that doesn't matter. These are also running games that really excel in the fourth quarter. Derrick Henry has had his biggest quarter of the year is the fourth quarter. Meanwhile, Nick Chubb is averaging 12 yards a carry in the fourth quarter. So these are two offensive lines that'll beat you down and wear you down and then let those running backs take over in the late stage of the game. Here's where the difference lies. Last year in the opening game, the Titans came in with Marcus Mariota and beat up on Cleveland in the first game of the biggest hype season in Browns history. At least Browns history since they returned. I think the year after the drive was a little more hyped than last year, only because everybody saw the Browns getting to the Super Bowl going through Denver. Here's two things that people forget about that game. One, Derrick Henry did not run the ball very well against that Browns defense. And two, they sacked Marcus Mariota multiple times. This is where the Browns can win this game, on the defensive side of the ball. If the Browns can get in Tannehill's face and get the pressure they've gotten, and it's not that they didn't get pressure on Mike Glennon, it's that they didn't sack Mike Glennon the way they did Carson Wentz the week before. If they can get pressure on Ryan Tannehill, they are going to be able to disrupt a passing game that has been complementary to a running game. It's still a fact in the NFL. No matter what dimension that is, if you make a team one-dimensional, you make it easier for them to be defended. So if you take away the passing game, which will be tough without Denzel Ward, especially not having your top corner on A.J. Brown, this is going to be a tough one for the Browns. Winning this game means Derrick Henry has to be held to maybe 90 yards, and Tannehill has to be hit at least 7-8 times and sacked at least twice. Those are minimums. You cannot let one part of this team go off, have to take down your pass defense to go against Derrick Henry in the box, and then expect them not to be able to throw the ball, especially not with Denzel Ward out there. So the defense has to limit the damage that Derrick Henry can do, and they have to hit Ryan Tannehill. Easier said than done. Tennessee's offensive line has been pretty good this year if they're blocking for a guy who's got 1,200 yards rushing. But Tennessee has done two things the Browns haven't done. They have lost to the Indianapolis Colts, and they've lost to the Cincinnati Bengals. If I'm the coaching staff, I'm watching the Bengals and the Colts tape, and I'm seeing what they did differently. I don't think Derrick Henry's missed a game this year, so it's not that he didn't play. It's that they focused on the run and kind of left their corners on an island. With the Browns secondary, I don't know if you can actually do that and leave them on an island without Denzel Ward, but this may be the way the Browns have to play defense. Having said that, having Garrett back is absolutely massive because he has shown all year there is no one who can stop him on the end of the offensive line when he is right. Question is he right? This was not a positive test that had no symptoms. This was a positive test that he said it was kicking his rear end. How ready is Miles going to be for this week? I'm sure if he wasn't ready, Kevin Stefanski wouldn't let him play. But having said that, he needs a big game today. Or he needs to be impactful enough that Olivier Vernon can have a big game today. So that's how you stop him on the defensive side of the ball. Here's how you get him on the offensive side of the ball. As we all know, Cincinnati is not a running team. The Colts are more of one. Cincinnati put up 31 points on that defense. This is going to have to be the put up or shut up game for Baker Mayfield. And I don't like saying it like that because I think Baker should be the long-term solution here, if Kevin Stefanski is the long-term solution. Because playing complementary football is not a bad thing. It's not a vice. He doesn't need to throw for 40,000 yards. He doesn't need to, or for 40,000 yards in 2 years. He doesn't need to be Patrick Mahomes. He needs to be Baker Mayfield. As the Everything Browns Nation thing comes up on my phone there. And Baker has played well when the running game is going. 17 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. That's a great, but through this point, there is not a single coach in the league that wouldn't take that. Baker's biggest issue is when he's gotten to the big games like this, he hasn't played all that well. He played in his rookie year. He did. He played really well against Baltimore, both times when they won and then when they lost in Baltimore. He played not good at all against Pittsburgh. He's played really well against Cincinnati every time out, and last year, he didn't play that great all year. And I believe that was more scheme and play calling than it was Baker himself. This year in his big games, look, he didn't play good week 1 against Baltimore, but not many teams have played really good against Baltimore until they started with the injuries. He didn't play that great against Pittsburgh, but then neither did the rest of the team. He has led fourth quarter comebacks. He has looked good the rest of the season, and he has stopped turning the ball over. You got two teams that the Browns are +5 in the turnover margin. Wow. And Tennessee's +11. These guys are ball hawks. They like to take the ball away. So the Browns need to dominate the line of scrimmage. I don't think that'll be a problem. You're talking about a phenomenally talented offensive line, different from a year ago. If he was a defensive lineman and having the kind of year he is statistically, Jedrick Wills would be the Rookie of the Year on one side of the ball. But he's an offensive lineman. When Joe Thomas gives you the stamp of approval, apparently it's worth something because Jedrick Wills has been absolutely phenomenal. And I don't like the school he went to. I can't stand it. It makes me ill. But he has been absolutely phenomenal. And if you watch the draft live reaction show I did with Frank from Clubhouse Sports, you know that's the guy I wanted. So protect Baker. Give him time. Not having Kadero Hodge today is going to be big. So that means Donovan Peoples-Jones needs to step up in that third wide receiver spot. Because Jarvis is going to be Jarvis, and I think Hollywood's going to be Hollywood. You have a great tight end trio in Hooper, Bryant, and David Njoku. The Browns can win this game throwing the football if they do what they've done for the last few weeks. Move the pocket. Give him time. Let receivers get routes going. When Baker has run for his life, he has not been a very good quarterback. But then again, any quarterback when they're running for their life, not very good. Keep him clean. It's going to be a nice day in Tennessee. It's not going to be 65-mile-an-hour winds like the last 3 games at home. So the Browns can get this done. They are right now 4-point dogs in Vegas going into the game. I think the Browns win this game and get to 9-3. This is one of the ones when I did early in the year, I said they were going to lose this one. But I'm changing my prediction, and here's why. I did not see the backfield being this dynamic. I knew they'd be good. I didn't see Nick Chubb being this dynamic. I didn't see losing Odell and seeing the passing game flourish a little bit. Not that losing Odell was a good thing. It has flourished because now it's not keying on him. Not, the defense now has to play the whole field instead of, well, we'll play over here and we'll let these guys do what they do. For whatever reason, it's worked, but it's also opened up the middle of the field. You've seen Harrison Bryant and Hooper and Njoku be open a lot more now that you don't have to play the pass first against this Browns offense. So this is the biggest game of Baker Mayfield's career to this point. I don't call it make or break because I believe the Browns will will pick up his 5th-year option, bring him into play, and then after that 5th year, sign him long-term. This is a big game because right now Baker Mayfield, for his own self, can shut up a ton of critics and tell them where to stick it. And I hope he does. Because I am tired of hearing the so-called experts trash this guy who has done nothing but play better than every quarterback in the last 21 years of this franchise. I lived in Cleveland when Tim Couch was drafted. Horrible. Derek Anderson. What a lot of people don't remember is Tim Couch didn't start that first season. The name was Ty Detmer. To the Brandon Whedons and the Brian Hoyers and the Johnny Footballs and the Deshaun Kaisers and the Tyrod Taylors. Baker Mayfield is the best quarterback the Browns have had in the last 21 years. It's a very simple thing to say, and it's also very true. This is his day to shut his critics up. And I think he'll come through. Tennessee's defense, for as good as they are taking the ball away, their pass rush hasn't been phenomenal. So I think this good Browns offensive line can keep him clean and can let him make the plays that he has been making for the last few weeks. Again, he has not lit the world up with stats because he doesn't have to. He doesn't have to be the guy who throws for 400 yards and 5 touchdowns a game. But this year when he's needed to be, He's done it. Cincinnati, he needed to lead a comeback. He did it. He needed to make some big throws against Philadelphia and against Jacksonville and against Houston, and he did it. All wins. So let's see how Baker plays. I think he'll play good. I think they'll be fine. I really think the Browns will win. If I had to guess right now, I'd say 27-23. Just by that 4 points. So I mentioned at the beginning, this could be the stepping stone to the Cleveland Browns running the table and ending the season at 13-3. Here's why I say it like that. This is the toughest remaining game on their schedule. Here's why. The other two teams they play that are going to be tough are at home. It's so this week against Tennessee. Next week on Monday Night Football against the Ravens in Cleveland. Then they have the 2-week vacation in New York, in the New York, New Jersey metro area, when they play the Giants and Jets in back-to-back weeks on the 20th and 27th of December. And then they close at home with the Steelers on January 3rd. Here's why this is the toughest game. One, we don't know if it's going to be RG3 or Lamar Jackson next week. Two, if it is Lamar Jackson, he has not played well recently. And by the way, Cleveland's got 2 feet of snow on the ground. I don't see Lamar being able to do what he does in a snow game. It's the Ravens defense has had some key injuries. So now you're talking about a mostly healthy Browns team going into next week against an injured and really not playing well Ravens team. And then the 2-week vacation in New York. Does anyone see the Browns losing one of those games? Even if Danny Dimes is healthy next week or in 2 weeks? I don't either. So there's 3 more wins. That's 12. By week 17, the Steelers may have already clinched the 1 seed in the AFC. They're going to play their backups. They're going to play Mason Rudolph. Because, unfortunately, talk about an undefeated season all you want. Ben Roethlisberger's pushing 40. One bad hit, and your run at a Super Bowl is over. Getting Ben a 3rd ring, I think, is going to be more important than getting an undefeated season. Look how they ended for the Patriots. They went for the undefeated season, and then a team they played, they ran into again, and they whooped them. But by the way, I don't think the Steelers are getting past Kansas City anyway. So this is a big one. Winning this game can set the Browns up for the best season since the Marty Schottenheimer era. The mid-'80s. All in all, they win this game, you're guaranteeing yourself a playoff spot because the worst you can be is 10-6. Or is 9-7. And I think 9-7 gets it done. But you're going to win the 2 games in New York, so we're talking they win today, they end up worse, 11-5. It's not a bad move. So, I was going to do a baseball or a Mets hot stove episode this week, and then I realized something. The Cavaliers start the 22nd. I've got to preview the Cavs. So later on this week, I'm going to come to you with the 2020-2021 Cleveland Cavaliers preview as the NBA kicks off its season on December 22nd. The Cavaliers will play on opening night. I'm going to look it up real quick. They actually have their first preseason game on December 12th against the Indiana Pacers. And the opener is actually on the 23rd against the Charlotte Hornets at home at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse in Cleveland. So I'm going to preview the Cleveland Cavaliers next Friday night. Have not heard otherwise. The fanatical live preview of the 117th playing of the game between the Ohio State Buckeyes and that team from up north. Then, of course, I'll be back next Sunday, whether it's live or not, with Browns pregame and a review of this week. It will be done on Sunday evening, as Monday night, I got to work, get home, dinner, everything else. Won't be able to get it on before Monday Night Football. The Monday night matchup against the Ravens. This is episode 90. We're 10 episodes away from the Michael Jordan-LeBron debate. Haven't decided if that's going to be live or not, but if I do it live, I am reaching out to all of my Time Skew brethren and to all of the people I interact with on Twitter in podcast world. If I do this live, I would love questions. about what I'm saying, about what your opinion is, and I will reach out to you during the episode to do it. So keep that in the back of your mind. Again, Tone and Alex will be back for a Hot Stove episode some point in time, probably closer to right after the first of the year. We'll do that. I'll talk to the boys in the coming days. As always, Big Rican can be found on Twitter at Big Rican on Sport, on YouTube Big Rican on Sports, Facebook Big Rican on Sports, as a proud member of the TimeSkew Podcast Network at timeskew.com, Google, Anchor, Breaker, Spotify, Pocket Casts, and Radio Public. Have a great rest of your Sunday, everybody. I'll come to you later this week with the Cavaliers episode. I think it's going to be an interesting season for this team because it's always an interesting season for the Cavaliers sometimes. Go Dogs. Have a good Sunday.